Hello, welcome to your home study. So let's get started by just looking over the 7 shapes of the major scale in G major, or we can also refer to them as the 7 modal shapes or major scale mode shapes. So just to recap, we've got one from the 3rd fret, which we're going to call the Ionian shape. It's also known as shape 1 of the major scale. We've got time. Okay, so the next one we're going to start from the 5th fret, which is the 2nd shape, but we're going to refer to it as the Dorian shape. So we've got time. Okay, the 3rd shape, which is we're going to refer to as the Phrygian shape, start from 7, which is next is the 4th shape, which is we're going to refer to as Lydian. So this time we're going to start from the 8th fret, and that goes. One more time. Shape, which we're going to call the Mixolydian shape, which starts from the 10th fret in this key. And again. Okay, the 6th shape, which we're going to call Aeolian. We're going to start from the 12th fret in this key. And again. And the 7th and last shape, which we're going to call Locrian, starting from 14 in this key. And then, we're back to the 1st shape up an octave. You can also play some of these down an octave, like the 6th and the 7th shape. But anyway, right. So this gives us the 7 shapes in the major scale, but we're also going to refer to them as the modal shapes: Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. And this is going to help you memorize the shape just giving it its name. Plus, it's going to give it some context when we start looking at things like, right, now we're going to improvise in Dorian, and we're going to use that Dorian shape to give us the 1st shape to start in, and a bit of just knowing where we can start. Okay, cool. So what we're going to look at now is, we call these shapes the diatonic shapes. Diatonic meaning that it's within the key. Chromatic meaning it's outside of the key. So we start over each of these modal shapes. You've also got a diatonic chord to the key. So for example, in G major, if we go through them, we've got over the 1st shape, we've got a G major. 2nd shape, we've got an A minor. 3rd, we've got B minor. got C major. 5th we've got D major. 6th we've got E minor. Then we've got on the 7th one we've got a half diminished chord, which the way I'm playing that is 14 on the E, 14 on the D, 14 on the G, 13 on the B. You can also play that on the 2nd fret, which looks like that. And so forgetting about the actual name of them, we've just got a major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, half diminished or diminished, then you're back to major. And this is the order of the chords in a major key. So this kind of gives us, not only does it give us, if we're playing in G major, it gives us 7 shapes that we can connect and solo in. But it also gives us, if we're writing a song, it gives us 7 chords that will work well with each other. So for example, if I had a chord progression start from G, what does it sound like going to B minor? Works well, because they're both in the same key. Then to A minor. How about going to D major? Back to G. B minor. We've got an A shape B minor there. A minor. And how about the D major again, but in an A shape? So there we have a diatonic chord progression that I just made up on the spot, because I know that through those exercises that we just did, I know that those chords are within that key. Doesn't always have to start on G, it could start on A, then D, G, B minor, so you could experiment a little bit. So this kind of gives you the 7 diatonic shapes of the major scale, or our 7 modal shapes, and then it also gives us our 7 diatonic chords in any major key or any minor key in some ways, but we'll talk about that another time. So with the modal shapes, you want to be able to play them across like we just did, but then once you know the shapes, I would recommend practicing them just going from the same root note. So you could do it from the 3rd fret or the 5th fret. So for example, you go like, right, Ionian. Dorian. Phrygian. Lydian. Mixolydian. Just a little tip here, the Ionian is also commonly known as the major scale, and Aeolian is also commonly known as natural minor scale. So that's just something to take note of. Okay, cool. So now the last thing to look at. So we've got the 7 shapes of the major scale diatonically across the fretboard, in G major in this case. Try it in different keys, in different octaves, and that will just further solidify the shapes. We've got the 7. We've looked at how we now can look at the 7 diatonic chords in one key, in E shapes, I guess, because they're all E shape bar chords. Maybe try it in A shape, see how you get on. It's just going to help you map out the fretboard better. And then also to test out your knowledge of the modal shapes, just do them all from the same note, and then you'll start to hear the differences, the differences between the different modes and the different intervals in them. Okay, cool. So last thing to talk about is just what chords can some of these modes work over. So if we're talking about improvising over something, so for example, if we had a major chord that we needed to improvise over. So for example, if we had A major, we have some options of what modes that we can play over that. Now we can play the major scale, which is also Ionian. So say if you had like a major scale, just a vamp on A major, you could use Ionian. Another major mode that you could use is Lydian. Cool. So you could also use Lydian, and then the last option is Mixolydian. So you've got over a major chord, you've got three options. You've got Ionian, Lydian, or Mixolydian. Now, if you extended those major chords, it starts to take away some of your options. So for example, if we had a major 7 chord, which in A major, so we've got 5th fret on the E, and then 6th fret on D and G, and then 5th fret on the B. We've only got two options now. Over a major 7 chord, you could play Ionian, but quite commonly, a lot of people like playing Lydian over a major 7 chord. Now we wouldn't be able to play Mixolydian because Mixolydian has a flat 7 in it, and we've got a major 7 here. So a good chord to play Mixolydian over would be a dominant 7, which is like your E-shaped major chord. Just take your little finger off, and we've got a major dominant 7. A lot of blues chord progressions, like a 12-bar blues, uses dominant 7s. And then you can use Mixolydian. Sorry. So that gives you a bit of context with, if you just got a major chord, you could use any of the 3 major modes, which is Ionian, Lydian, and Mixolydian. If you've got a major 7, just use Ionian or Lydian, and if it's a dominant 7, Mixolydian's your only, for the time being, it's your only option. Okay, then let's talk about minor chords, minor modes. So if we were playing A minor, you could play the 3 minor modes: Dorian, Phrygian, and also Aeolian. So if you had like a Dorian works really well. Phrygian. Gives a bit more of a Latin sound. And then you've got Aeolian, which works really well over minor. Natural minor, so it works really well over minor. Now if we had a minor 7 chord, you could use all 3 of those scales as well. So if it's just a minor 7 which I use by borrowing my third finger across the 5th fret on the D, G and B, and even high E if you want, and then bring your second finger to the E. You can also do it with your thumb over the top. Okay, cool. So you can actually stick with that option. It's only when they're extending a bit more, like if you had a minor 9 chord, which I would play like this, and then thumb over the top. Then minor 9, which you would go for Aeolian or Dorian, and if it was a minor flat 9, then you can use a Phrygian. But most commonly, all 3 minor modes are used over minor 7. Now, lastly, we've got on its own Locrian, which works over a half diminished chord, or also known as a minor 7 flat 5, because we've got root, flat 7, minor 3rd, which gives us a minor 7, but then we've got flat 5 here. Option is only over a half diminished or minor 7 flat 5. So that gives you a bit of context with what chords you can use, what modes you can use over what chords. So quite a few things here to work on: your diatonic scale shapes, or modal, the 7 modal shapes. Work on them across the fretboard in one key and then from the same note. Work on just which chord is over what. Which diatonic chord is over what shape, and then work a bit on knowing what chords can be played over the. Rewatch this video and learn which modes can be played over what chords, and then maybe go onto YouTube and look on some backing tracks and just put like Dorian backing track. Try the Dorian shape. Maybe try it from them all from A. So A Dorian, you could play A Dorian from there. Try a Phrygian backing track, you could try it from here. A Lydian. And so on. So experiment a bit, practice these practical things, and then experiment with improvising, trying the shapes over some backing tracks on YouTube, just to kind of get the sound of things and see how you get on. So hopefully you enjoyed this lesson and this explanation a bit more into major scale theory and major scale mode theory. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you next lesson. Enjoy.